Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is, I think, my first video of this year, 2023. As you can see, I look pretty rough still. I'm still sick. I've been sick since September, basically. I think now we know it's a stomach issue, but what exactly, though, we don't know. And so it still kind of rumbles on, unfortunately. And my hair is just getting out of control. I can't go to the hairdresser because I can't sit in certain positions. And you have to sit there in a chair, which is in a specific position. I feel it feels like my body kind of accelerates after a while. And I just feel so bad that basically I feel like fainting. So yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to give my hairdresser some bad experience there. So yeah, for now it's just gonna get longer and longer, especially at the back. It's getting like a disaster. All right. Anyway, today I just want to mention a few things. The first thing I'm gonna say is again, thanks for sticking out on Age of Reason. I do appreciate it a lot. The number of members has not gone up because I'm not promoting the page actively, but it has also not gone down. So that means, I'm sure some people are pissed off from time to time and leave, and that's kind of strange actually, because at least it would be nice to hear some kind of reason. I know it's not an airport and you don't need to announce your departure, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it would be interesting to know the reason why you're deciding to leave. But anyway, it's fine. But the thing I want to say about the page is that, look, if you are a theist, and I mean not like some theist who's on the fence and he's like basically half an atheist already or more than half. These people are usually like somewhat reasonable and you can talk to them. What I'm talking about is like the pure, hardcore theist that comes to my page. Look, if the intention is to preach, you're gonna have a very, very bad time on this page. And I am not interested in preachers whatsoever. And if I, see somebody do that, you're gonna get banned. It's just as simple as that. This is because it's not productive for anybody in the group, and especially not myself, and I'm the admin of the page. So you have to please me first of all, That's how it goes, people. So yeah, and also like if you come in with some kind of point to make, let's say, you better bring your A game, because look, I've been watching like the Atheist Experience, and now I'm watching The Line mostly because Matt Dillahunty moved on to that podcast. I've heard all these arguments before. Especially some young people, some young theists come to this page and they say something and they think like, wow, I must have said something really new and original. And I'm like, no, you haven't. I've heard all those arguments before. I know how it goes. I know how to debunk them, and in fact, they've been debunked already. So it's not even my job to do that. And also, an important thing is, look, it's not my point here is not to deconvert people. That's not my job. Like if people paid me money to deconvert people, then sure, I would make a bigger effort and I would really try to engage people much more, but it's not my job. It's not my job to think for you. You should be able to use your critical skills and logic and reason to properly think through things. And some people just refuse to do that, and they just accept, how can I say it? They remain in that pool of ignorance, and they're very proud of it too. And they're very happy to stay there because it feels comfortable to them. So, why make an effort? Thinking is hard. So, why make an effort? All right. So, I'm going to talk about the thread specifically just in a moment. But before I do that, I just want to quickly promote my book, Beyond the Black. Please get it on Amazon. It's available, obviously, in paperback, but also ebook. This is an independently published book. So the price is a bit high for the paperback. I do understand that, and I know it's kind of a problem. But hey, if you like reading, that's a great book. But again, if the paperback is too expensive, please consider getting the ebook, which is much more reasonable. And some people, in fact, these days prefer to read on a tablet or whatever. Okay, so let's go into today's thread. I'm just gonna crop myself in the edit, and yeah, we're gonna start looking at this thing. There it is. I kind of lost it for a second. So this was a comment that was left on a picture I posted on the page, and this was the picture basically. The only reason you feel like there is a God is because someone told you that there was a God. Religion is man-made, man-maintained, and man-spread. So definitely, like the last part of this is absolutely spot on. This is we people are maintaining the religion. Okay, it doesn't matter here yet where it came from, where the idea came from. It just matters that we are absolutely 100% maintaining the beliefs, the superstitions, and whatever you want to say. Definitely, this all comes from people, okay, not from another source. The first part of that, I do agree that it's a bit contentious because, yeah, it's not the only reason, but it's definitely a huge reason, okay? This is kind of the elephant in the room, so let's not beat around the bush there. Anyway, so I get a comment on this meme, and so it comes from Melanie, and she says, I'm just going to go through it, but I want to kind of explain a bit more what's going on here. So she says, basically, believing in God is common sense and self-reflection of how the world is perfectly created with design. So yeah, there is a sense of thinking that there is a God. Okay, I already disagree with the premises of this argument, if you can call it that. Look, I understand that theists see design everywhere. They look at the ocean, they look at the mountains or whatever, they look at the forests, and they always say, "Oh, I see design. I see design everywhere." Yeah, but you see, I I also see design in a way, but I see it in a different fashion. Now, the way I look at it is if you attribute it to God, you attribute it to magical thinking, basically. But I attribute it to nature. We know that nature is real, at least. We can feel it, we can touch it, we can see it evolve, etc., etc. So by saying that, okay, God did it, or some kind of, great designer, which, okay, they mean God, okay, that's just a dodge to not say the word God, but it's God. You're basically diminishing the beauty and complexity of nature, and yeah, you shouldn't do that. So I replied, the burden of proof is on you. I mean, if you say that there is a God, then I'm not making any claims, actually. I'm just listening to your argument, and you made a claim. You made a claim that there's a God, that, there's a great designer. Now, the burden of proof is on you to demonstrate that there is a God. I don't care about the Bible, really. I don't care about your personal feelings. I need some kind of evidence. Now, we're talking about a God, and God is an extraordinary claim, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Now, I have no idea what kind of evidence you need to present to be convincing. That's up to you to figure out. All I can tell you is that, I've been watching The Atheist Experience, The Line, and other shows. Theists have been calling in for, the past 20 years. I think it's a weekly show, right? So yeah, for 20 years, every week they've been calling in, talking to atheists on the show, trying to present a point, an argument for God. And for 20 years, they have constantly and successfully failed to do so. So if you just go back and rewatch those shows, because I'm sure your arguments have already been debunked before. Now, I get it, you might be young, you might not be aware of these shows, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist, though. They do exist, and they've been covered before. So please go and check them out. Um, just being young or something and not being aware of certain podcasts, that's not an excuse. I'm sorry. That's just ignorance again. That's your lack of desire to go out there and seek information. Anyway, the burden of proof is on you to prove a god. Hey, I just want to butt in here because there was a part of the screenshot that was cut out eventually, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But it was talking about design because basically the entire conversation we went in circles and circles and circles. This is very, very typical with theists. I mean, it's circular reasoning. You think that you've dealt with a point and you've moved on, but no, actually, you have to come back to that original point at some time. And that's just ridiculous anyway. But what she said was okay, so we talked about design, and she said, things are designed, and I don't really understand what that means. And then she says, well, the universe is designed. Again, I don't understand what that means. I'm sorry. I just don't. You look at the universe, and it's like, okay, there's like stuff there, galaxies, suns, asteroids. Um, I wouldn't say like it's particularly friendly to life. The only place we know of that's capable of hosting life so far, anyway, is planet Earth. I'm not saying that it's impossible that there are other, Earth-like planets out there, and maybe there is some kind of life even there as well. Look, the universe is absolutely gigantic. Okay, it's just ginormous, and this idea that we are the only kind of intelligent species in the entire universe, I just think that's, I mean, look, of course, yeah, we can't say anything because we don't have evidence. We can't say, well, yeah, there is life for sure. We don't have evidence for that. At the same time, though, it's just very, very unlikely, I think, that life just exists on this one tiny microscopic pixel in the canvas of space and nowhere else. I just think that's very unlikely. It's possible, sure, but not very likely. But yeah, the universe is very hostile to life in general, as we know. There are entire galaxies which are just forget it. Like you like there's no way life can exist there. I'm talking mostly about kind of quasar galaxies, like very old ones, or some kind of neutron stars or pulsars. I mean, you life is, I don't know, life is very resilient. So I maybe it's possible, but it's just very, very, very unlikely. So yeah, already this is not great design because it's a design that is not meant to encourage life or encourage existence when most galaxies in fact discourage that, right? So yeah, that's not a benevolent god. That's what I'm trying to say. And the universe is designed. I honestly don't understand what she meant by that. I'm sorry, but this is, I hear the words out of the mouth, but it just it's just air. Like it doesn't make any sense. I know for her it makes sense, but for anybody else listening to that, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? And I just don't understand why even bring it up. All right, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to say in this little insert. So now back to the main video. And I said, yeah, we don't have any evidence whatsoever. I don't see any anyway. The world is perfectly created with design. You have to demonstrate that. I mean, look, you're free to say it if you want. I can also say a bunch of crap, I can also pull a bunch of stuff out of my ass. It doesn't make it true, though. That's the thing. You have to demonstrate what you're saying, especially in this kind of discussion format. So I asked, yeah, what do you mean by perfect and what design? I mean, seriously, the people who say the world is perfectly designed or the world is perfect, that's just bullshit. Just look at COVID or any other disease like cancer or even heart failures or whatever. Like if it's perfectly designed with good intentions in mind, why all this fuckery exists in this world, right? It shouldn't exist. We should all be living well and long, probably, and happy, etc., etc. But this is far from the case. Most people in the world are miserable. Okay, the religion is part. It's not the whole reason for the misery. There's also politics and greedy people, etc., etc., assholes out there. Sure, but it is definitely not perfect, okay? That's for sure. So the next question, she says, I'm gonna kind of go a bit quicker now because there's a bit to cover here. What's so wrong in believing in God? True or not, it doesn't harm you. You don't even know the answer. Do you think there's no mystery anymore in this earth? Like all is answered by science, and also it's just still a theory of science. Okay, I have no idea what she means by theory of science. And also, the people who say, how does it harm me? Oh, believe me, it does harm me. And I explained exactly why. And I actually made a prediction here about how the conversation is going to go. And guess what? I was absolutely 100% correct because that's exactly how the conversation ended. And I will demonstrate it later in the video. Look, this is not new for me. I've been doing that for 10 years. Other people have been doing that for much longer than myself. I've watched these people do that. You're not coming in and trying to blow my mind. This is just not, it's very unlikely, okay, that's gonna happen. So you're warned. Anyway, the thing about believing in God and what's wrong about that is very easy to explain, because if you believe something that is not true, then you are prone to believing other things which are not true. And in fact, she will demonstrate it later in the conversation. So please do stick around. But look, I made a prediction because I know this is it's common knowledge. I mean, that's how flawed thinking is. You believe it's not just one wrong thing, but it's a chain of wrong things. I know one other person, right? Just, it's a very fresh example in my mind. And she believes that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is fully justified from a Russian point of view. So whatever the Russians are doing is actually correct. They should have done it. Maybe they should have done it even earlier in time, etc., etc., etc. Now, that person is also an anti-vaxxer. Okay, so it's not just one bad idea, but it's always a chain of bad ideas. Okay, and how it harms me later is basically people, unfortunately, whether I like it or not, some people who are like that, they also vote. And they vote for Jesus, basically. They vote for magical thinking, for magical solutions, and which are absolutely not based in reality. And that hurts everybody who is living in reality, okay? So that's how your belief harms people who are based in reality. Please try to understand that, because that's very, very important. Accept it or not, but the world is complex. Doesn't mean science can explain a certain thing and that God is not true, because nobody truly knows unless we die. This is another bullshit thing that believers love to say, is that, yeah, well, you have to die and then you'll find out. I can tell you one thing for sure. Nobody ever came back from the dead, okay? There are some stories that, some people were kind of like clinically dead and then they were resuscitated, but that's not thanks to God. That's thanks to the medical staff that kept kind of working and working, and then they kept maybe giving these shocks to the heart or something, and it just didn't work. But that last one did the trick. It worked, and the person woke up. So this is not God. It's not prayer. It's none of. Look, magic has never been the answer so far. I'll tell you that. You please provide me an example where magic was the solution, where magic was actually the answer to a problem. Please, because I I've heard stories, I've heard many stories, and yet they never have evidence. It's all kind of hearsay, anecdotal evidence at best. And I don't see why anybody should take any of that seriously. Anecdotal evidence is very, very weak evidence, if evidence at all. So yeah, that's about the death thing. And the world is complex. Okay, sure, yeah, the world is complex. So what? That doesn't mean God, though. It doesn't imply God. That's the thing. And okay, so there are certain things that science cannot explain. All right, I'll grant you that. Yeah, there are certain things that science currently cannot explain. But guess what? If you go back in time, let's say 2000 years, science could not explain many more things back then. But now we can explain a lot more because we had time, we had more knowledge, we obviously have more technology now. MRI didn't exist like 100 years ago or something, or 200 years ago. I'm not sure where it was invented. We have access to better knowledge now. That's called the evolution of science. It doesn't sit still. You know what sits still? Religion. The Bible. Look, we can say like the first Bibles appeared. I'm not sure when exactly, but you're taking that particular Bible, right? And I know there's been different versions and etc. since then, but essentially that thing has not changed. The interpretations may have changed, sure, but the text itself is basically version 1.0 still. It has not moved on to even 1.01. Just please understand this. This is very important. Science is always continuing. We have better evidence. We have the scientific method. It's a self-refining mechanism. Okay, you have more evidence coming in, and then you make new hypotheses. You experiment, and you come up to conclusions. Religion doesn't do any of that shit. Religion just says, okay, here's a book. You're supposed to read the book and accept it at face value. And don't doubt anything. Don't use critical thinking. Just accept it. This is the huge difference between religion and science. And I wish more people understood that. Let's move on to the second part. Okay, so we're talking about religion a bit more. And I said, okay, if you don't mean religion, then you're talking about spirituality maybe. But spirituality is still a bunch of woo. Spirituality is kind of a thing that people say, they're not like religious per se. They, maybe they don't go to church, they don't read the Bible really, but they believe still in a superior being, whatever that is. They believe in, healing crystals and magical stones sometimes, and believe in a bunch of woo, which again is evidence of flawed thinking. Like you're believing not just one false thing, but a chain of false things. All right. And so, yeah, she says, okay, no matter how logical you are, you can't answer everything about this world. I never claimed I could answer everything about the world. Not sure why she says that. And also, this is kind of an interesting point because we have to quantify what the everything means here. What is total knowledge exactly? How do we define that? Well, we can't right now because we don't know many things. Like we only know like this one universe. We don't know, maybe there are multiverses out there. We don't know how those multiverses, if they exist, what kind of laws apply there versus to this one. There could be things, obviously, out there which we've just never seen, we've never analyzed. And so, yeah, you have to quantify what you mean by knowing everything about the world or knowing everything about the universe. And this is very, very tough to do indeed. I'm not going to even attempt to do that because that would be silly. But if we say, for example, in a percentage, right? Let's say again, 2000 years ago, we can say maybe the knowledge of humans was, I don't know, 5% of the total. Okay, now in the year 2023, again, I'm just kind of making assumptions here. It could be 20%, but that's the thing. It could also be 90%. We could be actually very, very close to everything. That's the thing. We don't know what everything is. We could be already very, very close to it. We wouldn't know it until we reach it, right? So yeah, please quantify it. There are some, okay, gifted people, but they can't answer everything. Okay, that's okay. And so what? But your God can answer everything. That's your solution. I don't understand everything, therefore God. That's a God of the gaps argument again. Come on, like the God of the God of the gaps argument. Seriously, like this is a thing that's been debunked for longer than 20 years, and you don't know about that? I mean, what's wrong with you? Have you been living under a rock or something all this life? Why can't humans even cure cancer? And humans don't even know all the species in the sea. She misspelled sea, but that's okay. All right. Okay, yeah, it's true. We don't know maybe certain species, but that, so what? I mean, does that disprove evolution or something? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that what the point is meant to mean here. So yeah. As far as cancer is concerned, this is a good example here of somebody who doesn't understand medicine. She doesn't understand many things actually. Okay, that's she's very ignorant on many fields, but she definitely doesn't understand medicine. Cancer has, okay, we have like cancer as a kind of umbrella term, if you want. Cancer, okay, it's like climate change, right? But climate change is an umbrella term. Underneath, you find other things, okay, other topics. Now, I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I'm just saying it's an umbrella term. Underneath cancer, you have various forms of cancer. I'm sorry to break it to you, but there are many forms of cancer which we do cure. We know about them and we know how to fix them. That's why many people who have cancer, okay, it's true, unfortunately, a lot of people still die from cancer. Cancer is still, one of the leading causes of deaths in the world. That's true. But there are many forms of cancer. And I know one person who had a brain cancer, I think, and he was cured. That was even decades ago. So even decades ago, that was already done. But there are other forms of cancer. Testicular cancer gets cured. So don't give me that bullshit that we can't cure cancer. This is a bullshit thing that people ignorant in science, in medicine, I should say. They don't understand that cancer has many forms, and many forms we do cure. Study medicine, for God's sake. There's another thing that she said. I just want to mention that also. She talked about, okay, well, we don't know about the very beginning of the universe. So, okay, I'll grant you that. We don't know for sure what happened at the very, very beginning because, well, we can't see it because we even with the Webb telescope, etc., we can't see past a certain point in time. And also the universe at the beginning was very, very different from what it is now. And of course, there are many different ideas floating around. There are the basic idea is that in the early kind of stages, it was actually very, very dark. So there would be nothing to see. It would just be darkness, basically. So beyond that, when you think about the early universe, the question that a lot of people kind of ask is, what was there, let's say, before the inflation? I'm gonna leave aside the Big Bang for now because that's a different can of worms. But before the alleged inflation, and again, the answer is we don't know. And guess what? The correct answer is to look at people in the eye and say, I don't know. The incorrect answer is to look at them in the eyes and say, I don't know, therefore God did it. You see, you provided no evidence for your magical being that poofed the universe into existence. It's not an explanation. It's very childish reasoning. It's like somebody who's wishing for magic to be real, and magic has never been the answer so far. It's always been some kind of scientific explanation for everything so far. And I'm sure when we do have an explanation for maybe some things like the multiverse, etc., it's still going to be a scientific explanation and not God. Okay. But yeah, speaking about the early universe, we don't know. There's a lot of ideas out there. There is a show. You can catch it if you have the BBC, or if you are lucky enough to have the BBC player, so you can download it from the UK. But I think that's only limited to the UK. You may have to fiddle around with it to get it from other countries. But anyway, that's up to you to figure out. There's a very good show called Universe. It's hosted by Brian Cox, I think his name is. He's an astrophysicist from the UK. Basically, he's like the Neil deGrasse Tyson, but in the UK. He's huge over there, like absolutely huge. Does TV shows, lectures, etc., etc., etc. But in the last episode, they were talking about the Big Bang and what was potentially there before the Big Bang. Now, for some people, okay, but I'm not sure. I doubt that these people are, astrophysicists or even physicists remotely. But for them, it's just a non-starter because they say, well, space and time started with the Big Bang. Okay, but we don't know that for sure. That's the thing. Like you think that, we've all heard that thing at some point in time, but science changes, science evolves. There is we don't know so much about the Big Bang. So it just doesn't make sense yet to kind of jump to certain conclusions like that. Okay, so for them, it's a non starter. But that's why I recommend watching the show, because in the end, he says the current kind of model that they're investigating is this idea that there was indeed something before the Big Bang. Basically, how he explains it is there was this kind of vast ocean of energy with ripples, and eventually, like, yeah, something happened, like, some particular area of that went critical, and started to inflate, basically. And the ripples, it's interesting, this idea of ripples, because he says, according to his research and the research that he looked at, the ripples are actually imprinted in the universe of today. So when you look at the universe map of the kind of heat map, I think it's this kind of elliptical shape diagram of the universe, and there are different regions in it. Like certain regions are marked blue and certain regions are marked kind of orangey. And I think most of the galaxies are actually located on these filaments. But that's what he says. Like these ripples have kind of inflated, but they remained this shape, right? So anyway, there's a lot to think about there, and it's very interesting. And there's a lot of things we don't know. we can talk about certain aspects of it, sure, but there's just a lot of things we don't know. And that's the correct position, is to say, I don't know, and not, I don't know, therefore God. That is not an explanation. That's, like I said, it's just childish reasoning. It's not, for me, it's definitely, absolutely not a satisfying explanation. It's not an explanation at all. So, I, as a truth seeker, I'm interested in the truth, and it may be uncomfortable. For some people, I'm sure the idea of the multiverse is maybe very uncomfortable because they want to feel this kind of arrogance that we live in this one universe, and I live on this planet Earth, and life conditions were created perfectly for me, and that's a feeling that makes them comfortable, and etc., etc., etc. I'm not like that. I honestly don't care if tomorrow, it's demonstrated that there is another universe somewhere, and maybe it interacts with ours in some way. It's like, cool. That's one more universe to investigate, and I don't know. In my view, that's the correct attitude to life. You need to just be open to facts and evidence, and just go with the flow. I'm sure, like 30 years ago or something, many people said, something like the iPhone is stupid, useless. We will never use it. It's just gonna be some gadget that is quickly gonna be forgotten, and yet it was not. All right, that's it for the insert, and now let's get back to the main video. Peace. So you admit that humans can't answer still everything. Give it time means you also have a belief and trust on something that is not yet 100% proven. Like I said, we didn't know many things 2,000 years ago, and now we do know a lot of things compared to then. So yeah, give it time. Give it like 5,000 years or something, and we'll know a lot more than now. That's just how it works, though, and that's a proven fact. It's not a. It's a. It's an educated prediction, let's call it. Because it's based on evidence. 2,000 years ago, we barely knew anything. 2,000 years later, we know a lot more. So give it 2,000 years more. If there is no big cataclysm to interrupt the process, we'll know a lot more. That's just how it goes. It's growth of knowledge and experience. There is still hope that God is true. Just give it time. Look, I'm not saying that God does not exist. All I'm saying is that I reject your claim that God exists because you have not provided any evidence or any sufficient evidence to demonstrate that there is a God. The time to believe in a claim is when there is good evidence to believe in it. Otherwise, there is no point whatsoever. There will surely be an answer. Either we just die and nothing, or we die but there is something. Again, you have to demonstrate that there is something after death, but good luck demonstrating that, though. It's wise to have a belief in something because in case it's real, there are only positive sides to it if it's true. But those unbelievers like you only hope that God is not real. I don't hope that God is not real. Again, I just reject your claim that God is real. It's different. You don't, like, again, because this is a person who doesn't reason properly in terms of premises and arguments and conclusions. They're incapable of properly having a proper discussion. And also, like, okay, so yeah, just in case I'm gonna believe, first of all, which God do you believe in? Is it the God of the Bible? Because if that's the God that you follow, I'm sorry, but you clearly have not read the book. That the Bible, pretty much on every page. By the way, she's a woman, which is funny, because the Bible on almost every page. I mean, some pages are just inventory, which is fucking boring as hell, but I'm talking about kind of the regular story, without the cut out the inventory for a while. On pretty much every page of the Bible, there is something anti-women, anti-minorities, etc., 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 but especially anti-women. People who wrote the Bible really hated women. That's just a fact that you just have to read the book. I mean, it's all there. I'm not making it up. Just pick it up and read it. Obviously, you have not read it, because if you had read it and you still follow it, I don't know what to say. Look, there are Pentecostals, because I assumed that this particular young woman is, from the Philippines, and Philippines is a very theistic country in Asia. Maybe even the most theistic country in Asia, which is very unfortunate for them because it's also a very poor country. No surprise there, because religion just sucks people's incomes. That's all it does. So the pastors, they do very well. They drive Mercedes, etc. They have expensive suits, etc. But the people who go to the congregation are fucking poor. And they're kept in perpetual poverty by the church. I'm sorry you don't understand that simple fact of life, but that's exactly how most religion operates. I know some religions do good, like, yeah, they help the poor, and, they have food banks, etc. But I think in terms of percentage, like if you calculate how much help that is to humanity, it's probably like 0.5%. I'm not even exaggerating. It could be even less. The rest of it is basically just people giving in money to protect the church from pedophiles, so they can settle court cases, etc., for pedophiles that they're protecting, and to keep pastors rich, to keep the business going. They don't care about you. They don't care about the truth. They only care about filling their own pockets. Okay, yeah, so I recommend it, of course, going to Richard Dawkins and Aaron Ra. Aaron Ra has very good video series on evolution. Richard Dawkins, of course, is what is it? A bio, I forgot the exact title, but a biological evolutionist or something like that. Anyway, obviously, great sources, but it's not the only sources. Like, this is your job to go out there and seek knowledge. Now, again, it's your choice to not do any of that and to remain ignorant. It's a choice thing. Look, you made the choice. Okay, I'm just gonna accept all this hogwash from religion because it's easy, it's convenient, it makes me feel comfortable. I'm not gonna make an effort to actually go out and read books, especially these days. A lot of people don't read books anyway. That's why we're fucked. But yeah, they don't want to do research because it's hard, it's work. Like, they don't want that. But that's a deliberate choice that these people are making, okay? I also asked her, because she mentioned, like, there are many mysterious things in the world. I asked her to list those mysterious things, because obviously I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what you find mysterious. She says countless ones. That doesn't mean anything at all. And I think you know what mystery is. No, I don't. I'm not a mind reader, so that's why I asked you to provide me examples. Just one of the example is that I have seen someone levitate because he's possessed by someone or experiences astral projections. Oh, for fuck's sake. Please just shoot me now. This honestly breaks my heart to know that there are people out there who believe in so much fucking crap, There's so much crap in their heads. And it's like, come on, surely there must be something in you that is really seeking knowledge or the truth, but apparently no. Some people are really not interested in any of that. Just magical thinking is good enough for them. So this comes back to what I said at the start of the video. If you believe something that is untrue, you are prone to believing other things which are untrue. And I was just waiting. I was really just waiting and expecting her to provide me an example of such a thing. And here it is, astral projections. Now, absolute fucking bullshit, of course. Anybody with just an ounce of critical thinking knows it's bullshit, but for her, obviously, it's good enough. People who can levitate. There are magicians who can levitate. It's a trick. It's a cool trick, I admit it, but it's a trick. Like, even I could do it with a bit of practice. And like the astral projections, again, this is just absolute woo. Absolute woo. All right, and then the next one, and the final one is, there was a bit more actually here, but I cut it out because it's just more of the same. This was supposed to be her final knockout punch. This was supposed to be the thing that really kind of kills me, that defeats me in this epic discussion. She says, you don't even mention that it must be the theory of evolution. Theory as it is. Come on, seriously? Are you for real? Now, obviously, again, you're a theist, whether you're religious or you're spiritual, I don't really care at this point. You don't understand science. A theory in science does not mean just a hunch, a thought, something just, without any evidence. You should really Google the world at least, to see what it means, because it does not mean what you think it means. Theory in science means something with mountains of evidence. And it's basically a fact. Like when we say the theory of evolution by means of natural selection, usually, that's how it goes, that's a fact. That's a demonstrable fact. The Dover trial is over, for your information. And guess what? The creationists lost. And to make it even worse, by the way, I'm not sure that's true, but I believe that's true. The final nail in the coffin of that trial was actually hammered in by a Christian researcher. I'm not even making that up. It's true. I forgot the name of that person, but you can look it up. They were talking about irreducible complexity or something like that, and he actually produced the evidence that kind of, defeated that particular point, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, just take that in for a second. A Christian researcher basically, has proven creationism wrong. Take all the time you need. I'll be there. But yeah, you have to understand words. Obviously, this person does not understand argumentation, that's for sure. She doesn't understand how to properly have an argument with people. She doesn't construct her arguments in a proper way. Like the premises are maybe sometimes valid, but they're definitely not sound. And again, this comes from somebody who doesn't understand argument validity and soundness, because again, they have not studied it. And I don't understand, in 2023, you have access to all the knowledge on the internet. Pretty much everything you want is there, and you just don't go for it. By your own choice, you decided to not do that effort and just accept magical thinking as a fact. And that's just really, really sad. And I know, of course, there are many, it's not just her, there are probably billions of people like her, unfortunately. But I just don't get it, because like I myself, I'm a very curious person. I care about the truth. I don't care about what makes me comfortable or warm at night. I care about the truth, and the truth can be uncomfortable sometimes, but I want the cold, hard facts, and that's And if I know at least I know, okay, look, I know we can't claim 100% like certainty of things. I do accept that. I do understand that. But we can have a reasonable degree of confidence in our knowledge and what we know. So the more informed you are, the more you know in general, the more educated you are, the more chances there are you'll vote later, if you vote, because some people don't vote, and that's fine. That's a different discussion. But if you vote, you're gonna your vote is gonna be based in reality. You're gonna probably want to help people, and have empathy towards nature or whatnot. Now, if you believe in magical thinking that God is gonna fix climate change and God is gonna save animals, etc., chances are you're gonna vote for people who don't want to do anything really for humanity or for the world in general. They just want to line their pockets, and that's it. And that's how you harm us, the people who are based in reality world and not fantasy land. All right, I'm gonna end on this note. I think I covered a lot of ground. I do hope this was beneficial, because thinking about things well really goes a long way. Trust me, it really helps a lot. And you can, of course, you have the internet. You can look things up on the internet. There are also free online courses. Now, there is no excuse not to take them. I understand if you have to pay, and some people go like, I don't want to pay. But they're free online courses where you can go and study logical fallacies or reasoning and logic, etc., etc., etc. But you made that decision to not do any of that and to remain ignorant, stupid, dumb, whatever word you can use for that scenario. It's your choice. It's your deliberate choice to remain ignorant. I don't know what to say to you, but yeah. Anyway, the final point I want to make here is that clearly this person is not interested in the truth, okay? She just came because she thought, it's one of those pages, I'm gonna just comment and, nothing's gonna happen. Well, it's not one of those pages, okay? I run a tight ship. I'm the admin of the page, and like I said before, I don't want people to come in and preach, because this goes nowhere. Like I just proved exactly. This goes absolutely nowhere. It's not beneficial to the group or anyone except for you and maybe people who think like you. But just stay in your bubble, please. Don't come and pollute my page, all right? That's it. Yeah, so stay safe, take care. I hope you stay in good health and stuff like that. And I'll see you around. Bye bye.